Welcome to Inside the Upside Down, our Edge of the Rabbit Hole after hours show. I'm Mike Ricksecker, author and ghost historian. With me is our chat shenanigator and my partner in crime, fellow paranormal investigator and love of my life, Shana, among many other things. So we are going to be talking about beginning tips for ghost hunters, ghost hunting 101, whatever you want to call it, kind of our tips, tricks, and ideas for those who are thinking about or have just started investigating the paranormal. So we've been doing this between us, a couple of decades now. So I think we're a little experienced and can provide some insight into that. So Shauna, welcome. How are you this evening?
Wonderful.
Wonderful. So we already have this lined up. So Shauna's going to do number 2. I'm going to do rule number 1. So rule number 1, don't believe everything you see on TV. And Shauna, rule number 2,
Don't investigate like an asshole.
don't investigate like an asshole. You got all that stuff down, you're set. All right. So great to see all of you that have come back over from the Edge of the Rabbit Hole show and have continued watching us this evening. I know it gets a little bit late in the East, but that's why it's an after-hour show, right? Okay. So those two things put into context because, of course, the shows are... There's a lot of things on there that aren't real. They're not the way investigations really go down. They are investigating over several days, and they've condensed it down into about 42 minutes of footage. And so they're kind of taking the highlights of it, and you take what you will with what they actually find. But it's not the way it goes. There's a lot of times where investigating the paranormal is very boring. So you have to kind of know that going into it, that there's going to be a lot of sitting around and talking into the darkness and getting nothing. So, if you think that you're going to just be running into all these haunted, abandoned places, and then maybe not even necessarily abandoned, but in all these haunted places, and things are going to be thrown at you, and something's going to push you down the stairs, and you're going to have demons yelling, "Get out!" at you. That's not what happens. So, Shauna, what happens?
Pretty much exactly what you said. I mean, there's also to take into consideration that a lot of the energy that you're going to be dealing with isn't going to interact with you because it's not intelligent. So, while it is energy and it's cool to, experience and stuff like that, there's a lot of times hear something and then just, blow it off because chances are a footstep is probably just that. It's just a footstep. It's not really a haunting. To me, a haunting is, something that interacts with you. The
Yeah.
rest of it is just energy.
Yeah, so we should get into that, the difference between an intelligent haunt and residual haunt. I like Rebecca Gardner's rule number 3 here. Don't ever go alone and always get permission. So,
Yeah,
yes,
Mike.
absolutely.
Yeah, Mike. Don't ever go alone.
Well, I have been doing this 25 years, right? Does that count? What
Well,
what have what all have I
you
done alone? I did St. Joe's alone, right? I did St.
I've
Joe's
been doing
alone.
it for a long time too, but I don't go
And
alone.
and I did what? Liberty High. I had you on the phone for part of that, but I guess I was there alone. So, but especially like abandoned places where you could get seriously hurt and injured, that definitely have somebody there with you. Yes, always get permission. Don't be trespassing and things like that. So, I mean, that's actually illegal. Yeah, definitely always get
Trespassing,
permission.
trespassing is, not just illegal, but what it also does is it makes venue owners who would normally get permission not get permission because it makes us all look trustworthy. So you're giving us all a bad name. Stop it.
Yeah,
Get
that
permission.
that's actually a good point. Is that you start doing things like that, and they basically lump all of us into that. Oh, those ghost hunters, they just want to come in here and tear the place up, and they're always sneaking on and yada yada yada. So
I mean, I get it. There's a lot of cool places. I'm not a saint. I've been into, a place a couple of times without permission years ago. And believe me, it was in by no means safe. It's even in worse condition now. But in my defense, I didn't think there was going to be another chance. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Um, it's still standing miraculously enough. And since it's still standing, I figure we have a pretty good chance of getting into it
Need to
just
look into
based
that.
on,
Yeah.
yeah, one last hurrah before it's a pile of bricks, which
Right.
is going to happen. It should have happened already, really. I don't know how it still stands, but
But yes, always get permission. So okay, that was a good point that you'd mentioned. So the difference between a residual haunt and intelligent haunt. Oh, and there's another one from Rebecca Gardner. Never remove anything without permission. That's yeah. Don't be stealing stuff. Don't be stealing. Yeah. So intelligent haunt is something that's interacting with you, answering questions. Something that would be considered I guess, a spirit, an active spirit. Something residual. Think of that like a recording that's playing back over and over again. So you're always seeing like the same person, walk in the same direction through the same wall all the time. That sort of thing. So you have anything else you want to kind of throw in there, Shauna?
no, that's good.
That's good.
I, you pretty much covered that
No,
one.
we're good. B3 Aerospace say I like the one rule: don't be an asshole. Yeah, yeah. No, seriously, don't investigate like an asshole. What do we mean by that? And that's something we threw out there. I think it was last fall that we had an episode of Edge of the Rabbit Hole where we started the show off with "Don't investigate like an asshole," and it's basically being respectful to the spirits, being respectful to the homeowners, being respectful to the grounds, whatever it is. I mean, you're throwing out things, get permission, don't steal stuff, that sort of thing, which is all lumped into there about respect. And with the spirits, don't go walking into a place. And actually, Amelia Cotter was just talking about this on the Edge of the Rabbit Hole show that we just did. And I remember, Shauna, right, a little while ago you were saying amen to Amelia, and she's talking about things that we talk about all the time when we go to these locations. And we're not making these ridiculous demands about, opening and closing doors, hit me, all this ridiculous stuff, because you wouldn't walk into somebody's house and make those demands. When you walk into somebody's house and you're talking to them like a regular person, and that's the point, is that these ghosts that we're talking to are real people.
Yeah, they think of more people, it's catching on. There are people that realize, hey, these are people too. You know, um, I think when people step away from watching the shows, even though they're entertaining or whatever, I think they start to realize, you know, that's not really, how it happens. You know, let's try some, respect, and see what happens. And I've got to be honest, I've never, even my very first ghost hunt, um, had never done it before, but even then, I'm not, an idiot, I know that they were people once too. And, from the very first, run at it, I was having experiences, and I feel like an intelligent, experience, like interactive. And I feel like if you just go into a place with no respect, just hit this, punch that, touch me, do this stuff, throw this, hit that, whatever
Yeah.
method you're using, I feel like it's not going to get you anywhere. It's just not. If something happens, um, you it's if I were a ghost, and someone was bit, I would intentionally, ignore. So be like, come on now, you know.
Yeah, why would you want to talk to somebody like that? So you'll see on a lot of these shows that they provoke, and we don't do that. We're not about provocation at all. So Now, if somebody, like, let's say that you do end up with a nasty spirit in there that does push you or something like that, I mean, we're going to get firm and we're going to set some ground rules. Hey, you are not allowed to do that. That's not provocation. That's setting boundaries. That's different.
And you would do that, if someone did that to you in reality,
Yeah.
too. You can still set boundaries without being an asshole about it.
Yeah.
Just, you're doing this. I'm not comfortable with it. It's wrong. Stop it.
Yeah. Tom McNicholas is saying, "Are you warning us when we come to Alton? Shauna will come after us if we don't behave."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you.
She will.
Even though Mineral Springs is not mine, Donna and Dave and, Dan, the owner, were kind enough to let us have this event there. So, and because Mike and I are there, a lot,
Yeah.
we've come to, get to know, everybody there and the spirits included. So you can bet if you do something disrespectful, I'm going to let you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
we won't tolerate that, during the investigation. We will let you know that, there are rules, and if you cross those boundaries, you will be, out. So, I know, Shauna, you had things like that happen when you were on the boat. And there's a $10 super chat from Tom McNicholas. Thank you very much, Tom. Always appreciated. But yeah, you've had to deal with stuff like that, when you were working on the boat.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. There were people coming in there for the wrong reasons, and just, looking at the boat, just physically, its current condition was. Some of them were just there just to be like, hey, I did this. And some of them were there just, oh, they're doing this on TV. It's cool. I want to do this. Those were the ones that we usually had problems with, because they weren't taking it seriously and treating the venue with the respect that it deserved. And then getting mad, whenever they didn't experience anything. And they would be told. I'd let them know, well, maybe it's because of your behavior. I said, either be respectful and follow the rules or get the hell out.
Right. We have some interesting things in the chat. So Samuel Hall's adding, this is absolutely true. Don't come to a ghost hunt with your own drama, drunk, or on drugs. Yeah, that's...
Yes.
No, not at all. So,
and expose some of that, too.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. And no, you're out. But there's a interesting discussion here. So, Patricia's saying, I don't like the name Ghost Hunt. I prefer spirit communication. Spooky Dawn is saying, I prefer student of the supernatural. And that's interesting, getting into the terms of it. So, because actually, personally, I don't, even though I will use the term on occasion, of course, I've titled this Ghost Hunting 101 or Ghost Hunting for Beginners is what I've dubbed it on YouTube as well. I prefer paranormal investigation or paranormal investigators. The term ghost hunter, it's been said for a while that Hans Holzer coined that term, which I think he made that term more popular because his book, one of his first books, or maybe it was the first book, was Ghost Hunter. And then he had like 140 more books. So he's the one that kind of really popularized it. But Shauna, you and I saw that term in newspapers from the 1800s, in books from the 1800s, where they were already using that term back then, ghost hunting and ghost hunters and what have you. So the term's been around for a while. I don't know, any particular favorite you have as far as terms?
I prefer paranormal investigator, paranormal researcher. I mean, it's what we do. We research, and then we investigate what we've researched. Right. And then sometimes it's the other way around. We find, like, oh, look at this, and then check it out, and then research it. Either way, there's a lot of research going on.
True.
It's not about trying to, capture a ghost or, it's not just about that. It's about so much more than that. Yeah. And I would love to see TV go that route. I might actually watch. Right.
And there's Rebecca.
If it was legitimately, that.
Yeah. And there's Rebecca Gardner saying hunters capture and or kill their prey. I prefer paranormal investigator. Yeah, that's kind of the idea I get in my head. It's like, I'm not actually hunting. It's like I'm searching for, you know, almost like a detective. And I used to be into like the detective stories when I was a kid. So it's almost like being a private investigator, but we're investigating the paranormal. So that's kind of how I've lumped it. And then Shay Carroll's saying there's a difference between being a ghost hunter and a paranormal investigator, but it seems to be slang now. Amanda Donaldson is saying that she likes the term paranormal enthusiast. So I like how everybody is kind of has their own opinion on this. And I think when it comes down to it, I mean, a term is a term. I mean, I use the term ghostorian, where somebody would say they might be a paranormal researcher or a paranormal historian or something like that. And I've just kind of lumped together the whole thing. So it's a word, I guess. So I guess, yeah, you brought up that it's not all about collecting the evidence. I mean, there is definitely a side where we are, collecting evidence, and we're using all these different devices, and we'll get into some of the different devices here because I've brought some out, almost like a show and tell, like Amelia did with the snakes. We're going to do with the equipment, but I think more what we're trying to discover, and we've had a show on this before. More what we should be trying to discover is the history and the backstory of these spirits that we're trying to communicate with. I mean, yeah, it's great when we get EVPs we're communicating. It's great when we get a photograph of whether it's an apparition or a shadow person, or whether it's a white wisp or whatever it is. Those are all fantastic, and they kind of help us to show people, hey, there's something going on here. But it should be more about talking to these people and learning their story and why they're still here.
Yeah, a picture in the paranormal is not always worth 1,000 words. The words themselves is actually what's important. To me, capturing an apparition, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It is. It really is. And congratulations, because I don't ever catch anything. Like I have like a handful.
It's been tough. Yeah.
It's hard. If you're catching something all the time and it's legitimate, congratulations, because, mine is 99% of everything that happens to me is either something that I feel personally, which is, cool but annoying, and because it's not something that I can prove, and audio evidence. Capturing stuff on video is kind of rare sometimes.
Oh yeah, we go through hours and hours and hours of footage, and it's like, rarely do you catch something. And it might even be for like a split second. Thinking of, because we just released some different, evidence videos, and like that one where we're at St. Joseph's Hospital, and there's that whoever it is or whatever it is that's peeking around the corner and way down the hall. I mean, that's like a half a second. It is so quick, and we've got all of this video footage for that. It's a split second. So, but what's to me more interesting about something like that is, the story behind it. Finding out later on that, there is somebody who has been seen down there, that an apparition has been seen of a woman. She was a nurse. She died in a car accident, and after her death, she decided basically to keep going back to work. And so her coworkers, when it was still an active hospital, were seeing her there at the nurses' station. So to me, that's more of the story than just, we saw this. And I think too many people become evidence collectors, that, hey, I've got this great piece of evidence. Check out what I did here. Check out what I did there. And that's not what it's about.
No. And it's like the video that you posted, which was probably one of my favorite, which was about that. It's like, so you have this. Now what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
How are you going to better the field? What are you going to do with it? Are you going to just stick it in a file and be like, hey, look at me, look what I caught? Or are you going to find out what it was that you caught? And where's the backstory?
Yeah.
And, is it intelligent? If it's intelligent, what can you find out? I mean, don't just do it because it's cool, and don't try to be popular. Actually do something productive with this.
Yeah, I've seen too many people, hang on to that sort of stuff in hopes of getting a television show. Like if I show the right network or producer or whomever, I've captured this piece of evidence. Look at how great of a paranormal investigator I am, and so you want me on your show, and so they won't share it. I mean, they might have it up there initially, because I've seen stuff before that it's streamed live, and I'm sitting there watching it like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then they end up taking the video down and keeping it for themselves, hanging on to it. And like, I'm going to hang on to this till I get a show, or to be able to show somebody that hopefully will bring me onto a show. It's like you've totally lost, what this is all about. It's not about getting on a television show.
For some people, it is.
Well,
For some people,
for
it
some
is.
people, it is.
No,
My opinion is that's not what it should be about. To me, it's like
no.
if somebody offers you an opportunity for a show, I mean, and for one, I mean, I've had a number of times where it's all these things gearing up for well, we're gonna get a show, we're gonna do this, want you involved, da 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 da, and you get so far down the road, and then all of a sudden everything falls through. I mean, I've even been filmed and not ended up. We won't go there, but I mean, it's kind of a lucky happenstance when it happens, because there's a lot of great paranormal investigative teams out there that don't have their own show. It's not what it's about, and there's other teams that should be on TV that aren't, and some of them that are on TV that shouldn't. So it's not what it's about. That's more of just luck, or they were willing to give in to a network's demands, because there's a lot of the shows on TV that the networks say you have to do this in our show that I wouldn't be willing to do, that some other team might be like, yeah, sure, I'll do that, just to be able to get on TV.
Right.
So, okay, so I have a question from Raul Pfeiffer Mueller. So he was a super chat superstar on our last show. Herr Mike, which is Mr. Mike, he's German. Any perspective on the preternatural cryptozoological phenomenon? Goes on, coined Dogman by cryptozoological private investigator Ms. Linda Godfrey. Regards and bless. Yeah, being in Ohio, I know they had the Dogman convention here out in Defiance a couple years ago. I don't know if they did it this past year too. I actually don't know a lot about the Dogman. I know that there are a lot of reports of him. I've never had a Dogman experience personally. It's almost kind of like, any of the cryptozoological, creatures like Bigfoot or Mothman or what have you. And I think a lot of those stories are interesting. I don't know a lot of, the Dogman's background to really be able to talk on it. Some of them get interesting, like with the Mothman, all the, reported sightings, just mounted up, kind of almost more than most others, probably other than Bigfoot. So it's interesting. I just can't really speak on Dogman specifically. So, and Shana, I don't think you have anything about. And
Yeah.
there's Raul with a $5 super chat. So thank you, Raul. I'm sorry, I really couldn't answer your question so much, but
I don't really get into. I mean, I watch all kinds of on my YouTube channel, which I don't really ever do anything with. It's all just for personal use. I have a paranormal slash supernatural slash documentary history type playlist, and I'll watch stuff like that. But I don't try to interact with it. It's just interesting, just another piece of something that's out there that I'll store away, for future conversations if it ever comes up like tonight. But
yeah,
I don't really get into that side of it. Mine is just basically strictly, the spirits, just paranormal,
right.
whatever different abilities, people have, stuff like that. It's all
Yeah.
paranormal.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things out there, and this kind of not the scope of our show tonight. I mean, we've talked about black-eyed children before. Shauna, I know you've done Gonsfeld experiment. There's interesting locations where crazy things happen, like Bridgewater Triangle. So there's a lot of different things that you get to, and there's so much, and it's it's a lot to kind of retain it all. So, but for this particular episode, we're going to keep it, ghost hunting, kind of beginning ghost hunting type of stuff, paranormal investigating, what have you. I know I saw another one up here. So, this is an interesting one. So, and thank you, Donna, for doing your Cheshire Cat chat. Or you were looking for Donna's Dungeon earlier, too. So I don't know what you're going with for the show. Per Rebecca, what are your feelings regarding those that try to truly capture and remove spirits from active locations? Shana, take it away.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes because I know that there's, people out there that believe in removing and sending, and they believe that they're really removing and sending, you know. I just don't think that we have the authority to do that. I just don't. I also don't see, trying to actually, this is not Ghostbusters. I really don't see, trying to capture one. And it'd be great, to see, something like that actually happen. Can you capture, something like that? Great. But,
Well, one of my
yeah.
issues with the capturing, I know, I mean, that was the main feature of Ghost Asylum, Tennessee Wraith Chasers, and I've met a number of those guys, and they're really nice guys, and so I really don't want to step on their toes with that. I think it was a network thing where the network wanted, okay, let's try to trap a ghost, sort of a thing. Um, really, you're going into a location and you're going to try to capture a spirit. I think Shauna just froze. And okay, so think about this. You're sitting in your house, or what you believe is still your house, and you're just kind of hanging out. Maybe you're watching the TV from the from the dining room, looking into the living room. Maybe that's kind of like the thing that you do. So you hang around the dining room a lot. For what I'm just throwing an example out there, and all of a sudden these guys come in and they capture you and take you away to their whatever their office is or something. I mean, what the heck is that? You just got kidnapped, of your spirit, okay, but you just got kidnapped, right? It doesn't make sense to me. As far as crossing over a spirit, I know a lot of people talk about that, and I know people talk about they'll define, okay, a ghost is an earthbound spirit, and a spirit is somebody that's passed over or has crossed over and has come back. And I mean, I think all of that stuff is really theories, and maybe it makes sense to some people, and that's why they go with it. For me, if you've crossed over, I don't know why you would come back, because to me, crossing over signifies some place where you've gone and can't come back. I have a hard time with that, and it's, I know, Shauna, we've discussed this a number of times amongst ourselves. Yeah, crossing over to where? So, I know you and I believe in reincarnation. So, would it be crossing over into another life? Is it crossing over into some other temporary realm for a while where you meet up with some people from your life later on? I think there's too many questions to really know what all that is.
But I think there's a lot of, my internet connection is,
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I'm going to just drop an F-bomb.
Go
It's
ahead.
fucking horrible tonight.
Yeah, it's fucking Frontier.
Yeah, it's fucking Frontier. I hate it tonight. It's not good. So, it's not good every night, but it sucks more tonight.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because it's not 100%, why would you want to, unless you know 100%, and I don't care who you are, you don't know 100%, whatever your ability, whatever you think, it's really, be honest. I know you want to know, maybe you want to be that person that knows. I get it. I mean, I get it, but it's not 100%, you guys. It's not.
Right.
I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, I have no fucking idea. I don't know where you go. I don't know anything. All I know is what I feel.
Nobody knows for sure.
I constantly second guess the stuff that I feel sometimes. I'm like, well, I know I felt that, but let me see what else was going on, because maybe my mind is just wanting to feel or see or hear or whatever, and maybe that's what's going on. And then after it keeps happening persistently, then I'm like, well, maybe I'm actually experiencing that. But coming out of the gate, I don't automatically assume, oh, it's paranormal. I know what's going
Right.
on. I'm right, you're wrong. You know, Hopefully I don't piss anybody off tonight, but you guys know that I'm about as brutally honest as anybody else on this planet. And I will tell you, you know, whatever you think dig really deep and think, you know, it's okay to second guess sometimes.
Yeah.
It is. This is not 100%, you
Yeah.
know.
And for, the beginning paranormal investigator, keep that in mind that, what we're dealing with here, all based on theory. We have not proven it. I mean, a lot of people say, well, this is what the afterlife is supposed to be. Well, you can go through however many different religions are out there, and they all have a different idea of what the afterlife is. And people who are agnostic have a different idea what the afterlife is. So you have some people that believe in reincarnation, others that don't, some that believe you just become worm food. So many different beliefs out there. So, and they're all based on theory because we try a lot as investigators, that as we're questioning, we're finding out more about the people that are there, the spirits that are in the home, in the building, whatever. We do throw out some of those questions sometimes about the afterlife, and while we get a lot of responses and answers about who they are or who the building is or what the building is or what happened there, in their life, or what they may have witnessed or what have you, when it comes to the afterlife and the beyond and all that, we get very few responses as far as that.
Yeah. I mean, there have been times, when I've been in a building that has one name and ask for a name and the name of the venue and get what it was once before. So I'm assuming, from an intelligent spirit, that's what it still is for them. But they're still able to interact because they just heard me and they answered my question.
Right.
So I think there's some, you know, merging of the two, and that's how it happens. But then there's other times where, you know, you ask, where are you at? Where are you right now? Some people don't want to ask what year it is. I want to know what year it is.
Yeah, or at least
You know,
what year they think it is.
what year? Yeah, what year they think it is. It's nighttime for me. Is it daytime out? Is the sun out? Is it nighttime? Tell me your surroundings. Because I'll tell you my surroundings and let you know what's going on. And but and I've had where do you think you go? You know, when you die, where do you think you go? Do you see people walking around where you're at that have died, but do you still see them? Captain Minky didn't believe in ghosts.
And yet he was one.
And yeah, in an interview he gave at one point, he said he did not believe in ghosts. So, which I've always found funny,
Right.
and it makes me wonder. I always wanted to ask, and we did have that conversation. He and I say we had a conversation. I was basically talking to myself because I couldn't hear him. But, sat there, my stage right, there by the box seats, and was asking questions. Hey, and as soon as I started asking questions, immediately it sounded like someone had sat down just right there by me. And I had caught some stuff on audio, but it wasn't anything really super clear, that I could hear. But just the fact that it had gotten someone's attention and they were interested in it, so, but
Yeah.
yeah, you don't always get answers to those
No.
questions, believe
No.
me.
So, well, let's take another question here. This might get us back into, because that was kind of almost more advanced topics if you think about it, which is fine. We'll get back into this one. Is from Patrick Snaggletooth, which might get us back into some more kind of basic stuff. So, is it wise to try to get EVPs if you're inexperienced? So using your audio recorder, right?
That's a great way to start.
It is. It actually is a really great way to start. And also, I did want to throw out there, because it was mentioned before, not going on your own. Try to find a really reputable, experienced team to get with. Some people try to start up, hey, we saw it on TV, let's form our own group and go out there and do it. Try to get with some people that have been doing this, 10, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, that know what they're doing and learn from their experience and their tactics. So, but yeah, like Shonda said, it's actually a great way to get started. You are communicating with spirits, but that's when you're investigating the paranormal. That's what you're doing. So, a lot of people. I'm going to throw it out there. Ouija board. I think that's why people wonder. Should you try to get EVPs? If you're inexperienced, kind of the same thing with a Ouija board. You're trying to communicate with spirits, where you're trying to communicate with spirits here too, right? So what's the difference? There's proper ways to use the different devices. I think people don't understand the proper ways to use a Ouija board, which is why they get in trouble with them, and that's why I stay away, because I don't have that experience. But with this, I mean, it's fairly cut and dry and simple, wouldn't you say? I mean, you just you pop it on, you ask some questions, and see if you got anything.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to be, a seasoned investigator, to use a recorder. You can even use the old-fashioned
Yeah, reel to reel tape.
kind. I mean, whatever you want to use, just, be respectful. That's all. That's all. I think you'll catch, you'll get more responses. If you treat them with respect, they'll treat you with respect. They'll be like, oh, well, this, guy, girl, whatever, seems kind of nice, kind of trustworthy, genuinely interested in what's going on in my life. Maybe I'll talk to them. I may not give them all the answers that they're asking for, but I'll let them know I'm here. I mean, that works so well. You guys would be, so surprised. Think about how you're doing it right now, and think about some of the stuff that we've said tonight about what you shouldn't do, and just immediately stop doing it if you're doing it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's just it's a real simple way to try to communicate. You're not always going to get a disembodied voice. I mean, sometimes you do. We've heard disembodied voices off the water. You don't always have water available, nor do most people know actually how to use that technique. So I think it's kind of a real simple, cut and dry way. I mean, that's what you're there for, is to figure out if this place is haunted or not. That might be one reason why you're there. Maybe you already know it is, and you want to know more about the person that's there. And so if you're going to try to do that, we'll try to talk to them. I mean, usually that's how in our normal life that we try to find out more about somebody, is we sit down and we talk to them and we ask them questions. Well, if you can't hear their voice because they're a spirit, this can help. So
Yes.
And we can do a little bit more with the we can do an intro to equipment. We can do that, because that's that is a question that I get quite a bit from newer investigators, is what's your advice for equipment that I should be bringing to an investigation? Because they watch the shows, and that's what happens. They watch the shows and they see all of this great, crazy, fancy equipment. A lot of it is experimental. A lot of people will say, well, we're doing a scientific investigation because we're using these 3,000 different gadgets. And, really kind of, this is like really one of the best tools right here that we were just talking about. Using this, a camera, is kind of another, quick go-to, basic item. A notepad doesn't have to be this big. It could be a little notepad, to take some notes. You need, a must is a flashlight. You got to have a flashlight for safety reasons.
And batteries, extra batteries.
Yes, extra batteries. Because a lot of times we find that our batteries run out really quick. That whole battery drain issue, which is legit. It does happen. I don't think it's on purpose. Yeah. I don't think they know they're doing it, but it happens. So, I mean, those are, to me, basics. Audio recorder, flashlight, notepad, camera. That's
Oh,
your
I know another one.
yeah.
Get yourself a ghosty.
Oh
The
jeez.
kids love it.
Ghosty.
The kids love it.
Ghosty. Yeah. He glows in
They
the
do.
dark.
They really do. You know, the last Mineral Springs video that we had, um, we had some interaction with a child
We
in
did.
one of the rooms, and
We're
um,
using the ghosty
and a K2 meter.
and a K2. And so this, detects electromagnetic fields. So you can use this to communicate. It's not 100%, doesn't always work every single time. But in that particular case, Shauna, you want to talk a little bit about what was going on there? Because you had set down the ghosty.
Yeah, I tried to sit down, figured, we were communicating, nothing was happening, so we sat down the ghosty. And you should always put your phone in airplane mode. Let's
Yeah.
be honest. Put your phone in
Yeah, in
airplane
airplane mode.
Because, 15,
In the very least.
20
Yeah.
feet, 15, 20 feet away from that meter, you can set it off sometimes. You're like, oh my gosh, it's a ghost. No, it's not your phone. Did you put it in airplane mode? If you didn't, do that, Let's see, what floor it would be, the ballroom. And then there's a bathroom in Mineral Springs. It's right next to the ballroom area. And then there's this whole there's this plant, tree, whatever back there. And I was with Donna one night there. We were kind of sitting back there, and she says there's a little boy that hangs out, back there. And at one point, not only could you, feel him, but we had heard him out loud, and we were also seeing some light play, and there was nothing to play, light. It was just, there's nothing. There's just that corner. And so, when we go to Mineral Springs, we'll go there, and was trying to get him to come out and play a little bit, and it wasn't working. And so we tried ghosting because, it's a toy, it's a kid, figured maybe. And as soon as we, started, talking about ghosting, making sure, that he knew, what it was, what it could do, it glows in the dark, you can touch it, it's squishy, whatever, it's a toy.
Right.
And had the meter sitting there, and the meter, started going off, and then we would ask questions and the meter would go off again, in direct response, not the whole time, not just randomly,
Right.
but just in response, so a K2 meter is sometimes also a good tool to let you know that something's there.
Yeah. And that was a great example. Got really excited. The K2 was going off. So, you can use it, also to get a, baseline reading around the house. You might be able to, find and discover that there are locations in the house that have a very high energy field. And it is true that, those high energy fields, if they're, constant, they're always around, they can greatly affect, people and what they see and what they experience. And so, if somebody's constantly seeing something around that has a high EMF field, whether it's an old house with bad, a good example, and I know, Shauna, you haven't been there. There's a room in the Bel Air house that there's a wall within that room that has it's got to be old wiring or something, because you get within 5 feet of that wall, and the Mel meter, K2, stuff like that is just, it's starting to go up. So to me, any reports from that area of that room, I throw out, because it's like there's high EMF. And so that was, detected from here. Not that there was spirit activity, but that's a location within that particular house that you can't trust anything from that particular area because of that. But I've also seen, where, using this again to communicate, I'm in an old World War II plane, and we have the K2 out, and we're trying to do EVP sessions and all that. Again, nothing. And all of a sudden I start talking about how, I spent time in the Air Force, which came out of the old Army Air Corps, which those guys would have flown for, and boom, all of a sudden this starts going off and it starts becoming responsive to questions. So it can be used as a communicative device, even though there's also other times where this gets absolutely nothing on it. So, it's, you have to, keep in mind the context of a lot of these different, devices. Are they scientific? It's a gadget. It reads electromagnetic fields. Um, can you use it for scientific purposes? The problem with the paranormal and trying to say that we're scientific, we're running scientific tests and all that, is you don't have a control object, because it don't work 100% every single time. You have to have a constant in there that works the same every single time. You can't do that with the paranormal because nothing works on demand like that. So let's see what we have for. Well, we could cover some other equipment, unless. Oh, I saw this. I wanted to mention this. So, because we are talking equipment, Cassandra 50 OMG says, "I am so sick of those noisy ghost boxes." So am I. I don't like them. I really don't. Yeah, for one, the noise. It does drive me nuts. It does give me a headache. I have seen it work occasionally. And we had the Ohio Paranormal Syndicate on here a couple weeks ago. Or actually, maybe it was last week. And, they do use an SB7. And they caught something that it wasn't in the cycling of the radio stations. And that's something that Shana and I, you and I have talked about a lot on here, is that, that radio bleed over. A lot of people will say, oh, I caught it, or this response or that response. And it's just the radio. But they caught something that was in the white noise, not in any radio bleed over, is in the white noise. And so I think white noise does work, although it gives me a headache. But most of those boxes I just drop.
Yeah, white noise, as long as it's not super loud and annoying, and it doesn't need to be. You could have a low level of white noise and still catch something. But I detest the constant, the scanning noise and the voices coming through. Oh, I heard, well, yeah, you heard a radio station. You heard a voice, a random. I mean, I'm sorry. That is one thing that 100% I will stand by, even though I never am 100% about everything, when I say that is not a legitimate thing for me. It's just not. And those that are out there doing it and charging you an obscene amount of money for it, please don't spend your hard-earned money on stuff like that. Yeah. I'm sorry. I know there's people out there that are doing it and people out there that are fond of those people, and I am so sorry from the bottom of my heart, but it's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, the other one I'll throw out there, and this actually became part of a conversation the other night, and I've, of course, talked about it before in here. The apps.
Oh, God.
The apps and stuff like the Wonder Box and things like that. I've seen it. I've been on investigations before where, and it drove me nuts, because I was helping out with a public investigation, and this kid has his face in his laptop like almost the entire night, talking into this app, and it's spitting out whatever jumble stuff at him, and there was this one time where it actually shot his own voice back out at him, and I'm like, oh, I see how that's how it works. And I've actually had somebody debate me on that a little bit here recently, where they're like, they're getting feedback of their own voices, and it's like, there's a microphone on it collecting the voice, so that it's picking up on you're asking a question, and so it takes your voice, jumbles it up, does whatever modulating to it, throws it back out you. When it's throwing your own voice back out at you, it's because the program inside has forgotten to do something. I've spent over 25 years now in the IT industry. I have a degree in programming. I know how this stuff can easily be manipulated, and so I don't buy that stuff at all. I have, in the past, there were a couple of cases where it was like, because a number of different apps were used and they were all getting similar responses, like, okay, that's a little interesting there, but 99.9% of the time, throw it out, because they're way, way too easily manipulated just through basic computer programming. Where
And those other ghost apps where it will show you, oh, there's a spirit next to you.
oh yeah, the
Those are
ghost
my favorite.
radar, yeah.
It's like, oh, but I feel something. I feel something. It's like, yeah, you feel something because you believe that app is telling you. So now your mind is letting you know, oh, well, that says there's something there. So now your brain is tricking your body into thinking that there's something actually there. I do not believe in those ghost radar apps either. They're for entertainment purposes only. And it says it right in there.
Yeah,
You just got to read it. It's in there.
it's in there.
It says,
I'm gonna throw this one out there. There's a few other questions too. I'm skipping to this one just because it's all part of kind of that same group. So, do you think the Ovilus is valid? So, here's kind of another one of the issues that I have with this type of mentality of the ghosts are using their energy to manipulate this device, and it's so. You watch the shows, and they so smoothly say it in about 2 seconds. Use your energy to do this. And somehow we've kind of taken that as, oh, I guess a ghost can just use their energy to manipulate the device and make it do all this stuff. Okay. So what's a ghost? What's a spirit? It's somebody that had been human, that just, they're on, quote unquote, the other side. They can't be seen anymore. They're still a freaking human. So they still have their knowledge of life and how things work. Ask yourself, would you know, looking at that device at this very moment, how to make that say a word? I would, and I'm like I said, I have a degree in programming. I wouldn't know how, just looking at an Ovilus, to suddenly just like, okay, I'm going to zap my brain into the dictionary that's on there and find a word that I want to say. What in the world? Logically, how do you do that? That makes absolutely zero sense to me. Same thing with the ghost boxes. The thing is cycling 13 times a second, and yet somehow the ghost is like gonna, or the spirit is gonna pick out all these different pieces of words and put them together in that quick of a moment to formulate a word for you to understand. That doesn't make any sense to me. You can't do that now. How would you, being a spirit, just suddenly be able to, oh, I'm a spirit now, I know how to do all of this manipulative stuff? No, because one of the things, and we've talked about it before as well, is trying to take into context the spirits that we are communicating with, their time frame of when they lived and their understanding of the world. That a lot of times when we put these devices out there, we have to overly explain to them what it is and what it does, because they may have never in their lifetime seen anything like this. Now, a spirit that died in the 80s, maybe they do. The 1980s. Somebody in the 1880s, the 1780s, they're going to have no idea, and some of them you may even spook with it, because they might look at that and be like, it's magic, it's witchcraft, it's from the devil, because they thought like that, 200 years ago. So you got to take all that stuff into context. I do not, for something like the Ovilus, I have a hard time buying into, because I just cannot fathom for the life of me how a spirit is going to just suddenly go into the electronics of that device and pick out a word and throw it out there. I've seen it, I think, was it the Ovilus 5? Where every time, and I don't know if it happens with every device, Ovilus device. I know it was happening with this particular one during this one particular investigation. I'm playing around with it. It was like, every time I would turn the thing on, it would spit out 2 words. Every single time, spit out 2 words, spit out 2 words, spit out 2 words. So that's telling me it's just picking up on the power cycle, and whatever makes it trigger the words, it would pick up on the power cycle and just spit out 2 random words. Well, one of the guys I was with at the time thought it was like the coolest thing, kept turning on and off, actually, I think it was going between 2 different modes. And as he kept doing that, switching and switching and switching, he was thinking he was communicating. It's like, you're not. It's just because of this power influx that it's having at that time, and this device is picking up on that. It's just spitting that stuff out because that's what it's programmed to do. I've got a little jolt of electricity here, spit out a random word. So that's my take on that.
I agree.
And Shana agrees.
Of course.
Spooky saying, yeah, our devices might frighten them. They might think we're demons. Yeah. Very true. So a couple other things. And we have some other questions in there. But since I just want to finish up the whole thing on devices, because this is like a ghost hunting, paranormal investigating 101 sort of thing. So other devices that we use, but you don't necessarily have to have for doing a paranormal investigation. They're kind of a nice to have sort of thing. So, like you said, camera, take photographs. You could also use camcorder, take video if you'd like. This is regular camcorder, or and this is a basic again camcorder with night vision. So you see a lot of the shows and people like to use night vision because we do a lot of this stuff in the dark, and so you can of course see better in the dark with the night vision. There has been some debate lately as to whether to continue to use night vision because people have been for years now setting up these elaborate systems with 5, 6, 10 cameras, and they have to later go back through all this footage, and they're going through hours and hours and hours and hours of footage and seeing nothing. So a lot of people have been debating lately whether to continue to do that. We don't set up a crap ton of those type of cameras. We'll take the handheld and basically show you guys what we are experiencing. We also last year, we haven't been using this so much lately just because the files are so big. But it's the 360 cam. Jarrett Osborne calls this HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey. So this is interesting because it takes video all the way around. So just for an example, I'm talking with Shana in a hallway, and I basically have this. There's a stick that it goes on, and I have this out in front of her. We hear this bump go off to the side. It was in another room, and so the camera was picking up on that. Or there was a light that came on one time, so something that we wouldn't be able to capture in a regular handheld camera because I'd be having it pointed at Shauna and oh, we heard a noise, and then turn it. Well, too late, the noise is already gone. Where something like this would be able to see all the way around and capture that. So
yeah, and when you're watching the video, because you can do the 360. So if you're watching the video the first time around, and you're like, oh, at this time, whatever, in this seconds, that noise happens. So if you backtrack and then move it around to where it was, you may actually see something in real. What happened? What you didn't see first time.
Right.
So I think it's cool because of that. A lot of people get funhouse effect with it because it's so, and then it does not make a person look attractive either. You either get the weeble wobble effect,
you get a little distorted
arms, or
right. Well, yeah, I took a couple of screenshots out of there and posted them up on Facebook, and it's I had these super long arms because basically to get a flat image, right? It's taking this circle and flattening it out, and so with a globe of the world, where they take a globe and they stretch it out to make a map, and you see Greenland and Antarctica are seem huge, right? Because that's what happens when you stretch out something that's round. So yeah, it does some funny stuff like that. So I'm grabbing a couple other questions here. One other thing that I'll show that I think is as far as a modern tool, technological tool to use. I know we just kind of hammered ghost boxes, spirit boxes, ITC devices, that sort of stuff. And I get why people want those to work because they give you an immediate response. But this one I do actually believe in, and that is, we have yet to use this actually. That's the SLS camera. We got this just, it showed, hey, look, there's the reflection. We got it just after the Vandalia investigation that we did. So we were hoping to have it in time for that, and it arrived like the day after I came back. So it was just bad timing on ordering. But the reason why I buy this technology, the Kinect device here, okay, this detects motion and interprets that into the computer to it's for gaming, right? So, and my kids had a Kinect, and I even played with them, and you stand there in front of the thing, and it's picking up on your arms and legs, and basically it maps out your body because it senses you moving, puts that into the computer, for basically it was the Xbox, so it could map your movement into the game. So it's detecting you, and so this device, what they've done here is basically using the Kinect, and they're taking the program that does that mapping and showing you what it's seeing out there. So basically, if I've got this pointed off over there where not one of us is standing, I'm not standing there, Shauna's not standing there, whomever may also be with us, and it's somehow all of a sudden detecting that there's a person over there walking. Well, okay, I get it. That is, to me, that is legit. How could it be picking up on somebody moving over there that we can't see unless it, most likely is something, paranormal. That's the way I kind of look at that. So I buy that one. That one makes sense to me. So we haven't had a chance to play around with it. All right, so let's get to some of your guys' questions here. That's kind of our equipment overview. So we kind of have to backtrack here a little bit. This is like a lot earlier from Spooky. And this was kind of when we were talking about the crossing over. How can we send a spirit to a place we don't even know is there or what it is? And that is
True.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. If we don't for sure know where it is or exactly what it is, why are we sending them there or trying to send them there? Yeah. Okay, from Shay Carroll, do you only believe in reincarnation? That's
I
an
hope
interesting.
so. I want it to be true with every fiber of my being.
Well,
Because that may likely be the only way I get to experience Mike in each lifetime that I have. So,
oh, no, that is sweet. That is really sweet. And you, my love. And I didn't. I'll say that there's like 90% of me that didn't believe in reincarnation until I met Shana. There are parts of me that kind of questioned it, or there were times that something didn't happen in my life that I maybe missed an opportunity or whatever, and I said, well, next lifetime, that sort of thing. So I think there's always a little bit of me that thought, yeah, it might exist, but 90% of me was no. And I had a religious upbringing that didn't believe in that. So to me it was always heaven or hell, but after meeting Shauna, it's like, okay, now I buy this reincarnation thing. Because it's just one of those, we've been together in other lifetimes, and we're making plans, and we've done a hand fasting to be in future lifetimes together. So and even reading things from what's her name? I always butcher her name too. Dolores Cannon. She would do a lot of past life regressions, and just some of the information that she got from some of those different past life regressions was like so interesting. So that was a book that was kind of an eye opener for me. That was like, oh, that might really be a thing. So, and people are saying that was very cute. Very sweet.
yeah. On the flip side of cute, I also have had some past relationships over the years where I am sure that reincarnation exists because nobody can get that stupid one time around. They've came back and perfected the craft for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what else? I'm grabbing a couple others here. Per Andrew, how would spirits feel if they found out people were using them or their EVPs for fame or TV shows? That is a great question.
That is an amazing one.
Wow.
If I were a spirit, I'd
Yeah.
be fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Now using it, like we always say when we go in there, you do not hear them say on TV. We just want to know more about you, more about what things were like, how they are still like for you, more about your family, whatever you want to tell us, whatever you're comfortable with telling us. That's why you go back to a place.
Yeah. Multiple times.
It's just like, you meet someone for the first time, but they're like, I don't know who you are. You could be some creeper. But then they get to know you and they're like, oh, yeah, okay, well, they seem kind of trustworthy, so you develop a relationship. It's the same with human interaction. They're still human. They're just in a different place. They're still they're a different realm, a different form, a different whatever. But yeah, if I found out that someone was using my story and probably not even getting all the facts right and using it for monetary gain, I'd be fucking pissed. And you can bet that I would go out of my way to make sure that they weren't ever going to hear anything else from me again. And if I could pass it along to my ghosty, whoever, everybody else, boy, I'd definitely. It would change the game for me. I mean, so that's why I have zero respect for.
Yeah, I mean, and there may be some that are fine with that. Yeah, and that's why we always ask, what is it you want us, to let them know? What is your story? I mean, we go back multiple times because you can't really get to know a person after just one time, just like in real life. And so, yeah, it's I don't think that what we do, we're using the EVPs and all that for fame or fortune. I think we're using, we're collecting that, because we're trying to find out more about them, who they are, find out more about the location. We're sharing our experiences, sure, on YouTube, but like these shows, they're going into a place one time, just crash course, paranormal investigation, and we're just getting it for whatever to do with TV. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah,
Good
you'll
point.
notice on this channel that there are playlists, and you'll see that we've gone back to places repeated times where we'll talk about upcoming projects. What upcoming projects means is that we might have caught so many things at one place. We've done some research. We found a backstory that spun off into something else, into something else. We're not just collecting evidence for monetary gain or just to hold out for the big TV show. You could find like, who knows what you could find out. It could be like a historical, like, oh, what's this? This hasn't been documented before. Where'd this come from? You can discover things that haven't been documented yet. You could make history. I would rather, make history in a way that's going to be productive as a whole to society and not make history because I was on TV and people got to watch me. I don't want to be famous that way. I would much rather, people like, oh yeah, yeah, she found this, cool, thing. And now this is happening, because of it, not to me, not for me, but something that's, now happening, maybe to the venue, or maybe something that there's still maybe some relatives or some ancestors that these people are like, oh my God, we didn't know that, may discover something to add to their, their family history. So, that's what it's all about. That's what it should be all about.
That's what it should be all about. That's what we try to make it about. All right. Per River, and thanks, Donna, for collecting these questions. If some spirits can show themselves, why can't they all? That's a good
Yeah, that's
question.
great.
That's a great question, and it's one of the many mysteries of the paranormal. Because yeah, there are times that we do see something. It's rare.
I
Every
think,
once in a great while we capture it on film. But go ahead, you have a thought?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, when we see, I've seen apparitions before that didn't interact with me at
Mm-hmm.
all, even after me trying. Sometimes when they show up, it's residual. Um, Unfortunately, it happens that way. I've seen more that didn't interact with me than I've seen that has interacted with me. I will just say that. I think the majority are ones that are just there. It's just lingering energy. Um, Fortunately, it's in the form of an apparition, which is cool. But if it doesn't interact with you, that's why it's there.
Yeah.
It's doesn't even know it's there.
Well, and I think, as far as like the residual ones, it's just a playback. So, there's that big question there of what is it that kicks off that playback. There's the stone tape theory, which is, quite interesting that the energy has been retained in there. And of course, we don't know what the trigger is to actually make it kick off and play that back. So, that would certainly be a case of like it's being seen, and, but it doesn't know. There's no conscience there at all. As far as others that maybe are trying to communicate with you, it's one of those big questions. Do they actually know how to make themselves appear? I think a lot of these times when we're experiencing the paranormal, that they don't know that they are doing it. Like, I know a question that's come up before here is like battery drain, and I don't think that they know that they're draining the batteries. Some people think that it's on purpose, or they'll even use that, during questioning, like, this thing has batteries. Use use the energy from the batteries to give yourself energy and do something. And it's like, I don't think they necessarily know that I have energy that I can. I don't think so. So I think a lot of the times when we, actually see them, it's almost by accident. And I don't know, maybe some have figured that out. And then there's also that kind of bleed over between time frames where, it's like the ghosts are seeing you as the ghost. They're seeing you as an apparition. Well, have you said, I'm gonna show myself, I'm gonna be an apparition today, so that these ghosts see me as an apparition? No. How did that happen? I don't know, but somehow it did.
And I think sometimes it depends on the the time period that you're dealing with too. Like if there's childlike activity going on, but you don't see one, they may not be allowed to show themselves. Um, Seen and not heard. Rule. I
Right.
mean, that's um, there's times when nothing, would be going on, and then we'd ask permission, and then all of a sudden there's stuff going on. I think that's a rule in some places. Again, it's a respect thing. If
Yeah.
you think that that's how you need to approach it, if you've done your history, you need to know what time, period you're dealing with. Do a little research about that time period. Go in armed with knowledge. So that's how stuff happens. Sometimes you have to educate yourself before just walk up into a building being like, hey, move shit and show me something.
Right.
Don't
Yeah. Don't do that. So now here's one for you, Shauna. You'll like this one because we're gonna talk about my buddy Copperhead. So, Cheryl Midkiff, what do you think about dowsing rods? Do they really work? Do you want to take that, or you want me to go first? Because
I've seen them work. I've felt them work, you know. I don't use them just because I don't always trust them. I for sure don't always trust them, and I've probably made people feel uncomfortable when I'm just like, you know, so hardcore focused on their body, their muscles and their arms and muscles, their tendons, their hands, their everything. Because if I see one little twitch and I see the rod move because of that, I'm going to be like, sorry, tossing that one out. And, oh, no, 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 I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Well, like I said, I still have my tried and true box that my father made me, and I put 100% faith in that, because there's no way you can move the rods inside that unless you move the whole box.
Yeah. I think one of the issues with them is that for something like TV or YouTube, or when you're on an investigation and with others, that they're too easily manipulated. Now, I've seen my buddy Copperhead Greg Graham use them, and he uses a method where he points them down, and his thing is that the only way they could possibly cross is to defy gravity, and so he uses that method. And so I think his method is legit, and I think he's legit. So for that, it almost comes down to, do you trust the person? Yeah, I trust him. But there's others that I've seen use them that I don't know this person. So I don't know if they're way too can be easily manipulated. Now, back in the day, people would use tools like that, like divining rods or whatever, to find water, and that legitimately works. Where
I believe that.
Yeah. So
I know
there's
who does.
Yeah. So there is legit applications to these type of rods. But when it comes to investigating the paranormal, there's too many people out there that are trying to be like, oh, look, I've captured something or whatever, that they will manipulate it. So, yeah.
Emerson Retzer, God love him so much. He has used it to successfully find unmarked graves. And after, going into see, yeah, in fact, there was something there. So he's like, half a cemetery, 15, 20 stones in this little cemetery, used dowsing rods and spot on the money, didn't have anything to do with water. And he doesn't claim to have any kind of, whatever going on, but he made that happen. So, unfortunately, I was not there for that. I would have loved to have seen that. Yeah. But he's, Emerson is the historian for, where I grew up. So
right, yeah. No, I haven't met him. He's a good guy. I like him.
Yeah.
All right. From the Haglin, what is your take on different light spectrum cameras? Try them. I have no problem with that. I mean, I'm using the IR. I don't have a full spectrum camera, but I have no problem with using them and seeing what it captures. I mean, it's just, you think about what a camera is. Any of these, what do they do? They collect light. So it's just on different spectrums, right? So, or different kinds of light. That's all they are. They're light collectors. So, yeah, I have no problem with trying to use a full spectrum camera and seeing what it collects. Why not? Shana, you good with that?
Yeah, I don't see how, that can be manipulated. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It's capturing something,
Yeah.
And maybe something, and like when someone sends you a picture or something, and you use different types of filters, lights to see if it's still there, or if, a certain kind of light, takes it away or whatever. Yeah, so I, play with color, see what happens,
Yeah, I think where stuff gets manipulated, well, one of two ways. Either somebody could rig something up, like to be able to cast a shadow in a certain way that, you're capturing it with a camera, but it's being cast from somewhere else, and people will play around with that. Where like, oh, there's a shadow man down the hall, but actually it's because somebody from behind you has a flashlight that's creating your shadow against the wall, stuff like that. Or in post, where people will use effects or Photoshop stuff or whatever to say, oh, here or something. So that happens, and unfortunately, we as paranormal investigators, we bear that burden of others that have fake stuff.
Shame on you people.
Yeah, because
you're watching this and you do that. Stop it.
Yeah, because the skeptic's immediate responses like, oh, that was photoshopped, that was rigged, that's fake, and it might not be, but that's their immediate, when they look at something they can't, necessarily explain right off the bat. Oh, it's photoshopped. So, per Patrick Snaggletooth, you guys ever get scared? I think we had this last time.
Yeah, I do.
Shauna does.
I get overwhelmed.
Yeah, we got cut off in midstream at that. That's the one that got split in half. Yeah. I haven't had something scare me since I was a kid, and I'm gonna say it again. I know Brandon Kreitzer gave me a bunch of shit when we had him on because I said that. He was trying to say that I probably hadn't investigated enough. It's like, dude, my first investigation was 25 years ago, so been on a lot. I've been in some crazy situations where I've seen some shit go down. Like Taliesin getting punched in the gut by something unseen, and I end up with an EVP that says die. So that's a scary moment, but I wasn't. We had the back doors flying open and all this stuff was going on. I was kind of like almost more in awe at the time, like, wow, some shit's going down, and curious as to what exactly was happening. But I haven't had that one moment of I need to get up and run. Now, Shauna, you've had, I will say that you've had an instance where I would run because of the fact that it physically got dangerous when you're talking about bookshelves being thrown around. I'm not going to stand there and take a bookshelf to the face.
No, I mean, and I think if they wanted it to hit us, I think whatever was going on, whatever was causing it, timed it just perfectly. I think it was just a warning to say, hey, and because we're talking like as soon as the last person, clears away, split second later, a bookshelf is smacking where that person, was just standing. And yeah, I had never been really scared before, but like I said, when I mentioned before, that was a game changer for me because I was always under the impression that they couldn't hurt you, and that is so far from the truth. Yes, they can. So if they want to, they will, in other places, I wouldn't say I get scared. I just get uncomfortable. Like sometimes just there's too much energy.
Well, there's a difference in that. Yeah, you get uncomfortable, sure.
Emotionally overwhelmed sometimes, and it's very unnerving and unsettling, and it's just sometimes I just can't hang. I don't want to deal with it.
But I wouldn't call that scared.
Yeah, especially the stronger, stuff. And I kind of wonder, it's not like I feel like I'm being attacked. It's just how my brain is processing it. It's just taking in too much, and it's just emotionally and physically overwhelming sometimes. And then where I'm just like, I got to get out of here.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm uncomfortable more than I'm scared, unless there's spiders. I am.
Yeah, she'll jump at the spiders. Yep.
Of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, this is an interesting question. So this is from New York Cat. When they say help, what can you do to help?
You ask. Yeah. I mean, first you have to figure out if, that help me is residual or not. If you get more interaction, moving off of that, you got to find out, how can you help somebody if you don't know what they need help for? You have to ask.
Right.
There's only so much you can do. If they're asking help during a time where you did not exist, they have to tell you. Somehow they've got to tell you. There's not much you can do.
There might be a message that they want you to pass along. Maybe they want some sort of, hey, I'm still here, recognize me. There may be something, where you just can't do it. Because if it's like a message to somebody that's already passed as well, how do you do that? One that was kind of interesting to me was Fairy Plantation. I got that. I got an EVP that said help. I actually, heard it at the time or understood it at the time that they wanted help. Um, yeah, cause that one that was an interesting one. So I knew they wanted help. It did come across as an EVP that they wanted help, and I basically understood that what they wanted help was that the setup there in the best parlor was done as a wake. And the woman there just did not like this setup as a wake because the best parlor had been used for many, many other things. Yes, it was used for wakes when people died, but people only died every once in a while. It was usually, a household that. So she wanted help in me passing a message along that they didn't want it set up like that, or she didn't want it set up like that. So I passed the message along. Not sure that necessarily helped because they still set up as a wake, but but that's an example. So yeah, like Shana said, find out what it is they need help with and whether or not you might be able to do something. Spooky, what do you think of light grids?
I think they're kind of cool. I've had some weird experiences with them. Stuff filed away is, what the fuck did I just see? How was that happening? Witnessed by, seen by others. So it's like, what in the world? I have seen, something, walk through and manipulate. I've seen the little pieces of light, plucked off and looked like they were flicked or moved forward, which without moving anything else, which I thought was weird. Especially since the pin was taped down and stationary away from everybody, away from everybody, so that nobody could manipulate it. So I've had some weirdness there, I have seen them work though. So, after that particular episode with mine, it never worked again. No matter how many batteries or different things I tried to do to it. So I was only out $11, so no big deal. But yeah, I like them.
Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't had a whole lot of luck with them. Yeah, they are very cool, and you sit there and watch them and see the light grid against the wall. One that was kind of interesting that I saw set up was at Ohio State Reformatory from Sean Gilmore. He got those those Christmas lights that he shot them up there as a grid. They're just basically the same thing, the little LED lasers, that shoot against the wall. So that was actually a laser grid in all different colors rather than just the green that we're used to. So it was kind of interesting.
That's how I would decorate for Christmas, by the way.
Yeah. So, from Tom McNicholas, I'm sorry, Tom. He says you dissed most of my stuff except for a flashlight. Well, we didn't diss the SLS camera. Sorry, I mean it's like just
we love you.
We do. We love you, Tom. Just some of those pieces of equipment we just disagree with.
To each their own, though.
True. And like I said, there's some of them where I have seen, some of them work occasionally. Yeah, you're right. To each their own. It gives me so much of a headache, and I've seen so much of it get misinterpreted for the little that might be legit. So.
Yeah, just all that we're asking is if you like to use something that we're anti, whatever against it, is to just keep an open mind that there is that small chance that what you're getting as a reply, as a response, as, evidence is not legitimate. Just keep an open mind. That's all we're asking. We're not saying, well, we don't believe in it, so you can't believe in it either. We're right, you're wrong. Just keep an open mind. That's it,
Candy has a good tip in here, since this is Ghost Hunting 101. Carry glow sticks, emergency supply if your flashlights quit. Good idea. Very good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, yeah, you guys have had a lot of great input tonight, a lot of great questions, and we are getting towards the end. I do want to try to get these last couple in here.
First aid kit.
Yeah, definitely keep a first aid kit around just in case. So
yeah, an insect repellent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Snaggletooth. Yes, this is Patrick again. Where is the Haunted Road Media Facebook group? So that's facebook.com/Haunted Road Media. So There you go. From April M. Wimigwans. This has almost become like, paranormal Q&A here, which is good. I like it. April M. Wimigwans. Where are the best places to look for an investigation? Cemetery or an abandoned building? How do you know a certain place other than a building is haunted? Those are some good questions.
Research.
Yeah.
You research. Basically, if you're familiar with the area or whatever, just get out there. Go out there. If you see, oh, that building looks pretty cool, or this area feels pretty cool, um, go research it. Find out what happened there. Why does it feel so cool to you? Why are you picking up that vibe? Research. Maybe somebody died there. Maybe there was some tragic event there. Maybe it doesn't have to be a tragedy. Maybe there was something, significant that packed a lot of energy there, and it's lingering, or research is at the very top of all of my answers, and Mike's too. I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely. And we didn't really cover a lot here on research, mostly because we did a few weeks back a complete video on, almost like Paranormal Research 101, where we actually showed you, took all the different screens of, here's the county assessor's office, and here's, the historic maps and all that. So we didn't even touch on that with this. But yeah, research is definitely up there. And remember, again, going into these different places, get permission and all that. But yeah, I mean, some cemeteries are very haunted and others have nothing going on. And, some abandoned buildings have a bunch going on and others don't. It's, you don't really know until you go there and experience it. And as for the reason as to why, well, there could be a variety of reasons, which is why, like Shana said, we do all the research on those places. So, and the other part about a certain place other than a building is haunted. I mean, yeah, there are locations out there, like parts of a forest, or wherever that, yeah, there are locations and not necessarily a building that are haunted as well. So, let's see what else you guys have. Patrick also have you ever seen some apparitions that looked really horrible? So, I know some people, and I think it's more of with their third eye. Well, they'll see somebody's like death face or something like that. I haven't seen any of that, and I haven't seen very many apparitions anyway. I know Shauna's seen some apparitions. I usually see shadow people.
I saw one of the archaeology department buildings, because I used to clean all of their buildings, one summer. And one of the buildings, there was, some movement upstairs, but the apparition that I saw, it was a older woman. She was a brunette, but there was a lot of gray in her hair, so she was definitely older than me. And she was wearing, her coloring was just faded. She was very faded. But then I noticed that there was a brown, kind of rusty color handprint on her apron that she was wearing, like an off-white colored apron, and the same mark was on her face. And I remember, like, oh my God, what? It kind of spooked me a little bit, not gonna lie. I was by myself, of course. Which that was my job, and I'm not gonna lie, there have been times whenever I have called my good friend Rita or my father, be like, because he's a repellent, so everything that's going on will immediately stop,
Yeah, they want nothing to do with your dad.
I thought she was a residual at first, because she just kind of had a blank face, and then her eyes moved, and then she actually, like, full on looked at me and then was tracking me. So I'm like, oh shit, she's okay, but why does that look, is that blood? I mean, should I be afraid? How'd she get that? Can't she hurt me? And we were in a kitchen, there's weapons. I mean, what am I dealing with here? So, it kind of freaked me out. That's probably the scariest one, I've seen, or it wasn't really scary, but it was just kind of, it was unstable. I mean, it was I couldn't label it. I didn't know, what was going to happen. So definitely not something that I wanted to be alone
Right.
around. Kind of scary, kind of a little spooky to me, but nothing, big scary looking, monster or anything like that. I've never seen
Right.
anything
No.
like that, so.
So, good tip from Candy Orton. Beginners, try daytime's investigations first. Daytime can help you learn to debunk things, sounds, etc. Yeah, that's yeah, and that's another question that pops up quite often from people is, you know, why do you investigate at night? Do you only have to investigate at night? Why don't you investigate during the day? And we have done plenty of daytime investigations. There's the thing about nighttime. There's two pros, at least for me, to investigating at night rather than during the day, and that's one, noise. So during the daytime, there's all kinds of noise pollution, from traffic, and there's just, it's busier during the day, so the noise, external noise, is a lot higher. So at nighttime, that comes down. Also, during the daytime, as the sun is moving in and out of clouds and things like that, if it happens to be like a cloudy day like that, you get all kinds of interesting shadow play through the windows of the house. So at night, it's usually pretty static with that. So those are the two cons for me. On the flip side of that, it does seem silly in a lot of ways investigating in the absolute pitch black. While you can, okay, that'll heighten some of your other senses, like hearing and things like that. If you're trying to see what's going on, you're not seeing anything. So it
Also
does.
during the daytime, um, most people were awake during the daytime,
Right.
you know? I mean, to me, daytime, stuff is like, I would think, especially if it's daytime, wherever you're dealing with, they're probably going to be more active during it. Some of my best stuff happened during the day,
Yeah.
in the afternoon.
I think you have more of a chance for residual activity during the day because, yeah, that's when people are awake and something would have happened. That if it's happening concurrently on like a anniversary or whatever it is, okay, that's when it's going to happen. Um, also, yeah, to me, it's kind of funny. We'll go back to the shows again. You watch some of these, and they're interviewing, these people that like work at a historic location, and they're like, "Yeah, this happened to me, and that happened to me," and it happened during their working hours while they're there during the day, and so then they turn around and go investigate at night. It's kind of
I
silly.
mean, stuff happens, at night, but also another advantage to going during the day is especially why whenever we go somewhere, we get there before the sun goes down. So you can get the layout of a building.
Yeah.
Um, a flashlight. Sometimes you need just daylight, to
Yeah,
see
give
what you
yourself a
see.
good visual before you even go in or before it gets dark. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you're just starting out, like maybe your body feels more comfortable, during the daytime, let your, energy get used to the energy there because, scary movies, and stuff like that. When does most of that stuff happen? It happens at night.
Yeah.
Your brain is programmed to be, oh, it's nighttime now, so that's when the scary stuff comes out. If you think that's going to be an issue for you, get your feet wet during the day first.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's no problem with investigating during the day. We've done it plenty of times. Um, we're going to finish up here. So Jen K says, I noticed most of the shows things happen in the day when they're interviewing everyone. Yeah, that does happen. And then Betty and Wayne, do you always get permission to go into a place? Yes, we do. So I know you guys popped in a little bit later, or I guess it's probably just Betty, but I know you popped in a little bit later. But yeah, we talked about that earlier, that we always get permission to go into a place. So, all right. So we've gone like way over tonight. I saw Diane Hilbert was like, bye, I'm out of here. And I know it is like past 12:30 in the East. So it's like, it's Wednesday. It is now Wednesday. I think this has been our longest Inside the Upside Down ever.
Yeah.
So Ghost 101 turned into Paranormal Q&A. But I think there's I think we covered a lot of bases here. There's a lot of good tips that people can take away for getting into ghost hunting, getting into investigating the paranormal. And yeah, I'll keep throwing both terms out there, even though I like paranormal investigating better because people use the terms. So, all right. So let's get into the shout outs. Super chat superstars Tom McNicholas and Rolf Pfeiffer Mueller. So thank you both for that. So Donna Gorton, thank you for Cheshire Cat chatting the chat and sending me those questions. Diane Hilbert already took off, so I can't say goodbye to her. So I'm sorry, Diane. So there's Zoe Small. Hey Zoe, how you doing? Shay Carroll, good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Patricia B, thank you very much. Spooky Dawn, thank you as well. Snaggletooth Patrick, again, thank you as well. Lenora Moreno, thank you as well. New York Cat, do you have a P.O. box? Contact us on hauntedroadmedia.com. Just shoot a message through the contact there if you want to hit us up about something, and I can get you some info on that if you're looking for a P.O. box. April M. Wimagwans, thank you as well for the questions. River, thank you for your question too. Betty, thank you for stopping in tonight. Hope you're feeling better. Great group. Sorry I came late. It's okay. You came. We're very happy to have you. Cheryl Midkiff, thank you as well. Thank you for your questions. Katie Palmer, thank you. We had a lot of people in tonight. I think I already said, did I say Candy before? I think I did. Candy has some good input tonight. Chipper Terry, thank you again. I'm losing my voice, I know. Andrew Cox, thank you always. Anita Ackerman, thank you for dropping in tonight. Appreciate that. Jen K, yep, there you are. Thank you. And
River.
River. I think I got River. I might not.
I just saw next show, ? We have shows every Tuesday night.
Yep, every Tuesday night. 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time is Edge of the Rabbit Hole, and then about 10:40. That's actually probably about 10:55. As soon as we get everything switched out from Edge of the Rabbit Hole onto this, then we do Inside the Upside Down. Then we also have a Friday Night Ghost Race that we do every Friday, which is not a live show, but we do it.
Subscribe to the channel and
yes.
click on the little bell, and should give you notifications. Yep. Find us on Facebook too, because we're always posting the events at the beginning of the week.
Yep. And so that is, like I said earlier, Facebook.com/HauntedRoadMedia for that. B3 Airspace already took off. And then Tim Schoen. Okay. So I think we got. If we missed you, I do apologize. There's the Haglin. And Kathy Saliento, thank you. All right. I think we got it. If we miss you, then I apologize. We try to get everybody. It's just hard. Betty says coming in next time under a new name. Okay. Just make sure that we know. So we give you a proper shout out. All right. That'll do it. It was a long show. It was a lot. But no, it was good. I actually enjoyed it. There was a lot of stuff. And there's Tammy Heitzman and Samuel Hall. All right. Thanks, guys. Really do appreciate it. So next week, I can't remember who we have on next week. Edge of the Rabbit is actually booked up all the way into July now. I can't remember who's on next week. I'll have to look through my list. So, so join us again next week. In 2 weeks, of course, we have the Paracon at Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois. So be sure to check that out. So you can get all the details at hauntedroadmedia.com. I'm tired and rambling. Shana, I love you. We got to go. So all of you have a very wonderful evening. Get some rest. I know I won't. Until next time.
Bye.